Hi there, we're Group 4. We're presenting on Kraft Foods. Our group consists of Shelby Cooper over there, Colleen Gaffney right there, Julian right there, Mike Kustek right there, myself, David Tumlo, and Ben Washman way in the back. So we have a lot to cover today. We're going to start with the company background, the history, and a little bit about its markets. Then we're going to dive right into the external analysis. We have a Porter's 5 Forces analysis, and we're going to look at the market share a little bit more. And then we'll head on over to the internal analysis, which we're going to cover the value chain, some primary and support activities, as well as its position itself as cost leadership. And then also we're going to talk about the spinoff of Kraft Foods and Mondelez International, as well as some recommendations for the company and our findings and conclusions. Now a little bit of company background for you. If you've ever found yourself in Northfield, Illinois, you know that that's where the executive offices of Kraft Foods is located at. They have properties in 59 different countries, as well as separated into 3 main segments comprised of the United States, which is the largest, with 40.35% of its revenue. Europe, its second largest, which is 31.71% of its revenues, as well as just the other ones just piled into the smallest group at 27.94% of its revenues. So Kraft Foods' primary industry is the natural and processed cheese market, but they also dabble in a few other industries as well. They deal in U.S. beverages, U.S. cheese, U.S. convenient meals, U.S. grocery, U.S. snacks, as well as in Canada and North America food services. They have their whole Europe division as well, and they even have a whole market dedicated to their developing markets and growing those. So here to tell you about a brief history of the company, here's Colleen.
Kraft resulted as a merger of General Foods and Kraft in 1989 by Philip Morris. It was purchased at that time for a total of $12.9 billion. This created Kraft General Foods, which was the largest food producer in the U.S., as we mentioned. The merger hurt and benefited different products overall, and then it made the company pretty stagnant. There wasn't a relative gain or loss in market share at that time. In '97, they agreed with Starbucks to distribute their coffee beans, and then that increased their margins once again, so they did gain more share. They also bought Nabisco in 2000, but due to new health trends, Kraft struggled. Everyone was working on being fit, and convenience foods didn't really fit in. Irene B. Rosenfeld, the CEO, was hired in 2006 and turned things around by giving Kraft independence in 2007. So for the external analysis on Kraft, we wanted to focus on Porter's 5 Forces. I feel like it's an overall encompassing way to really analyze the external forces that, affect a company's overall health. So with this diagram, you can see Porter's 5 Forces consist of the threat of new entrants, bargaining power of suppliers, threat of substitutes, bargaining power of buyers, and competitive rivalry within the industry. Overall, the bargaining power of suppliers is pretty negligible. They have a lot of homogeneous inputs going into Kraft's products, so if there are any price changes, they affect the industry overall and not one company versus another. There's also a low bargaining power of customers because food is a necessity, and particularly in the American market, people are looking to purchase food that is convenient and prepackaged. There's a weak threat of new entrants because these companies that take over the market share, including Kraft, have established brand recognition, and it's unlikely to be matched by the competitors. The threat really lies in that of Kraft substitutes. There are multiple restaurants. A lot of people eat out frequently, and they are continuing to do so even more frequently. Whole Foods, those are not packaged. Produce, vegetables, fruits, things like that really do add up, and people are looking to buy those more than packaged foods. Generic brands, things that you can buy without the Kraft logo, will pretty much offer customers the same thing, but they don't have that price that Kraft has. Another threat is that of competitors in the same industry. Kraft needs to focus on differentiation to set itself apart and in order to make their market share more sizable. So this pie chart just demonstrates that there are a lot of competitors for Kraft to take into consideration, and they all split the market share pretty much evenly in the American market.
Well, Colleen, who are Kraft's biggest competitors?
Dave, I'm so glad you asked, because Kraft actually has 20% of the market share, so it's doing pretty well. Nestle, however, is doing better because they have 35%. PepsiCo, while you think just has beverages, has a lot of food as well and selling 24%, where Unilever is taking a lot of Kraft's competitive market share with 21%. All right, Dave, now that we know who Kraft's biggest competitors are, can you tell me why they were able to maintain or create any barriers to entry to help them gain a competitive advantage?
I think so. I think it has to do with their brand perception as well as their reputation. I know I won't eat anything but Kraft macaroni and cheese. Even though it costs a little bit more than the generic brand, I just gotta have it. And it's a great value too. I know I can't afford to be eating at all these fancy Oakland restaurants all the time. So it's a very good substitute, especially there's a large market for people just looking for that great meal.
Excellent. Dave, that was awesome. Julian's going to talk to us now about the internal analysis of Kraft.
Can't wait.
Hi, I'm going to talk about a value chain analysis. This is a internal analysis. And basically what a value chain analysis is it is a tool for determining value to customers, and it is a model of how businesses receive raw materials as input, add value to the raw materials through support and primary activities, and sell finished products to customers. And 3 different strategies that business can employ to create value to customers are differentiation of product, lowering the cost of production, and meeting customers' needs quickly. And the goal of these strategies is to create a sustainable competitive advantage. And one thing of note is that if a company tries to employ more than one of these strategies and attempts to straddle, that will not create a sustainable competitive advantage. All right. Whenever it comes to the support activities, the first thing to talk about is firm infrastructure. And what Kraft has decided to do is outsource some of their work with regards to infrastructure. And as we saw in class, that doesn't always work out well. However, in 2006, Kraft Foods agreed to a 7-year contract with Electronic Data Systems to outsource its information technology infrastructure. And according to Kraft Foods Executive Vice President Aline Corbiv, in outsourcing our infrastructure services to EDS, we take advantage of their scale and exceptional capabilities to help us focus on internal sources and on our core business activities. Next up, I'm going to talk about human resource management. And basically what Kraft Foods does in order to attract and retain talented employees is it allows employees from top to bottom to be involved in not only the most basic decisions, but also in important strategic decisions. And in doing this, they use all their manpower and expertise, and they kind of create a situation in which the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. And in regards to technology development, basically Kraft has 6 different research centers, and the research and development sector of Kraft Foods uses state-of-the-art machinery to create packaging that maximizes product shelf life and is also biodegradable. And they're known for being extremely innovative within the industry. Whenever it comes to procurement, Kraft Food, their procurement department focuses on creativity, and they need to do this because they are responsible for obtaining literally everything that Kraft uses in its business, from plane tickets to, hotel rooms, everything, in between whatever you can think of. And they use various negotiation techniques, and they try to obtain whatever they need to at the lowest possible price. That's it. All right, I'm going to talk one more thing about it. And one thing to note about all of these support activities is that they all, for the most part, support Kraft's strategy of being a cost leader, as they all add value by reducing costs. All right, whenever it comes to primary activities, these are the 5 listed. And the first one I'm going to talk about is inbound logistics. And the main thing that Kraft Foods does is it has a relationship with CHEP, which is the global leader in pallet and container pooling services. And along with this strategic alliance, Kraft Foods uses a system known as collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment, which is CPFR, and it helps in making its inbound logistics more efficient. Whenever it comes to operations, Kraft uses something known as the IPCI project, and what that is a few years ago, Kraft Foods began an integrated process control improvement, IPCI. The goals of this project were to increase packaging effectiveness, reduce employee overtime, reduce the usage of expensive ingredients, and become a cost leader in the industry. And Kraft Foods definitely met these goals, and at some sites, the company was able to reduce controllable costs by up to 10.5%. All right, whenever it comes to outbound logistics, Kraft Foods tries to be as efficient as possible when it comes to transportation. Kraft is always looking for cheaper and more efficient and innovative ways to deliver stock to customers. The company uses not only trucks but trains in order to efficiently transport its products. Kraft Foods uses software provided by Transportation Warehouse Optimization to optimize outbound truckloads, maximize weight and cube, and put more products on fewer trucks. When it comes to marketing and sales, Kraft Foods mainly focuses on collaboration with customers, and the marketing department of Kraft Foods focuses on increasing the perceived value of the Kraft brand. What the product stands for, how it looks, and everything else about the product determines whether or not the customer selects Kraft or a competing brand. The sales department focuses on collaboration with customers by recognizing that in increasing its customer sales, it increases its own sales. In doing this, the company hopes it can identify more opportunities and thus increase sales. When it comes to increasing value through services, one thing of note is that Kraft Food has an A+ according to the Better Business Bureau rating, and the company has for a company of its size, it has received a small number of complaints. However, it has dealt with and followed through with all of the complaints it has received. And lastly, it's important to note that in the majority of its primary activities, Kraft Foods implements a cost leadership strategy in order to obtain a sustainable competitive advantage. And this figure right here is a visual representation of a value chain analysis. And as you can see, the strategy is cost leadership, and here the support activities are firm infrastructure, human resource management, technology development, and procurement. And the primary activities are inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and services. And these two combine to create a margin and hence a competitive advantage. All right, well, now that we know that the basic strategy Kraft uses to create value is a cost leadership strategy, Mike, what are why is it important to look at both internal and external factors?
I imagine it's important to look at both sets of factors so that Kraft can position itself strategically in the market, but then it can also make sure that its internal structure is fitting for the company. This way, everybody on the inside is happy and everybody on the outside is happy.
All right, well, now you can talk to us a little bit more about the merger.
Sounds good. All right, so there was a spinoff within Kraft Foods. I don't know if any of you heard about this. It got approved by their board of directors back on August 14th, 2012, and it became effective when the market closed on October 1st. What happened was Kraft Foods Incorporated spun off its North American grocery business into Kraft Foods Group Incorporated, and this was done by them giving all their shareholders 1 share of Kraft Foods Group for every 3 shares of Kraft Foods Incorporated that they currently held. This new company, Kraft Foods Group, will be traded under the symbol KRFT on the S&P 500. Then the parent company will be renamed Mondelez International and trade under MDLZ on the S&P 100 and 500. You have to remember that Kraft Foods was taken off of the Dow Jones Industrial Average back on September 14, 2012 in favor of United Health Group. Alright, this new company, Kraft Foods Group, is going to continue serving the grocery food brands in North America such as Oscar Mayer, Velveeta, and Miracle Whip, while Mondelez International will take over the snack food brands such as Oreo and Nabisco, as well as all of the market share in Europe that fell under Kraft Europe, and the developing markets, which are their highest booming markets currently. Kraft Foods Group has high cash and profit earnings despite low growth. This is basically why the split is happening. You need to be able to separate this from the booming Mondelez International markets outside North America. Why you would stay in a low growth market is a good question, and it's answered by the fact that since they have such a high market share already, those profits are going to be high, but they won't increase, but at the same time they'll be sustainable and reliable, which is what this class is about, sustaining your competitive advantage. Alright, Mondelez International is currently the world's largest chocolate, candy, and biscuit maker. The name, I'm sure you're wondering, it's terrible, I understand that. It was created by 2 employees within the company. They held a contest in order to see who could name the new company, and 2 idiots, Johannes Schmidt and Mark Firestone, decided on this name, Mondelez. It means delicious world in some language other than English, and I guess the board thought it was just fantastic, so that's what they went with. The upside to this is that Mondelez is not going to be a brand name. It's only going to be in fine print. You won't be buying Mondelez cookies or anything like that, so have no fear. And then what Mondelez will actually be focusing on are the fast-growing markets that are outside of North America. The biggest one right now is the Middle East. That has some incredibly high upside and growth potential. So even though there is some risk involved, there is so much potential that they believe that a separate entity should be created in order to focus entirely on making sure that that market grows and is sustainable.
Hey there, but didn't we learn about economies of scope in class? Shouldn't Kraft have been able to achieve these by producing multiple products with similar technologies?
That's a great point, Dave, and economies of scope are incredibly important. However, in this specific case, Kraft wasn't able to achieve those economies of scope due to a distinct lack of synergy between the 2 divisions of its company. This is the exact reason why the spinoff occurred.
So could this have possibly been a case of diseconomies of scale?
I suppose you could say that. The company was just too large, trying to do too many things within one entity. So by breaking the 2 off, I think they'll actually perform better. Yeah, I would call this diseconomies of scale.
Oh wow, yeah, especially with the 2 different grocery and snack food markets growing at different rates. That's got to create some problems with fit, right?
Yeah, well, since the snack food market's just booming, there's no way you could have someone actually take care of that division and the grocery food market, which is basically staying stable the entire time. If you were to have someone to take care of both of those, things just would get messy, and the structure and the fit would just not be there.
Oh, well, it seems like this spinoff has really created a lot of fit for each individual company.
I think so. It's still a little early to tell, but without a doubt, if you had to ask me, I would say go buy some Kraft stock because this thing's going to boom.
Oh, wow, excellent. I guess this is a case where the sum of the parts isn't greater than the whole.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dave. And now we're going to get some recommendations from Colleen.
Oh, excellent. You're good.
So we wanted to examine some of the recommendations for Kraft. Primarily, we recognize that Kraft is operating effectively and maintaining an advantage in the industry. They are among the top competitors, gaining market share in this market, so they're doing pretty well overall. We think they can continue to enhance these already well-established brand equity and build loyalty with customers. That goes along with the differentiation tactics they've been using, just pretty much getting the idea of Kraft in customers' minds and recognizing that it's of better quality than than the products of competitors. We think Kraft should continue to implement the cost leadership strategy as well, and along with that, it can decrease environmental impact. So things like supply chain regulation and decreasing packaging of its products will really help to be a cost leader in this market. We also have some recommendations for Mandela's. We feel like they can develop healthier choices that taste the same, or at least convince customers that they do. Customers will be more willing to purchase products if they know that they are going to recognize health benefits from doing so. So we want them to implement this in the future. And then despite some cannibalization, this will open new revenue streams and result in a net gain because there will be more purchases of the products. Engage new markets worldwide, establish new distribution channels. So look for more avenues through which to distribute the products that are on the market. Invest heavily in research and development to create new products and brands. New products, new brands, more interest in what's already on the market. This will ensure that there is more market share for Mandela's. When dealing with new markets, think outside the box. Creativity is key. Everyone's looking for a new hot product. If it's on the market and people buy it, that will ensure a win. Based on the internal and external analysis presented earlier, we feel the company made a positive decision to split. However, it's too early to definitely say if it will work or not. We haven't really recognized the specific benefits or costs that were involved with this split, and we don't know overall if it was a good choice. It does show creativity and willingness to take risks. This mindset is obviously extremely important for a company that's trying to globalize and develop new products. We're always talking about how creativity and thinking outside the box are what makes companies see an advantage. So we recognize that that was an important thing to look into.
This concludes our presentation. I guess this is a case where the sum of the parts isn't greater than the whole. I guess this is a case where the sum of the parts isn't as great as the whole.
There's clapping motion but no clapping sound.
I guess this is a case where the sum of the parts is not greater than